Welcome, welcome. So I am going to be live streaming tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Central Time to around 9 o'clock or so. And in preparation for that, I'm just releasing a few short, hopefully, videos to kind of clear up any misunderstandings between my particular views and the views that are commonly held out there in the cop watching community. Hey, Real Junie, Ladybird, what's up? I am, we'll try to read the comments as well as I can. Hi, Ms. Dury. Tyrone, what up? I'm not primarily making this video for the comments, so sorry if I'm not too attentive, but I just have a few things to get off my chest, like I said, in preparation for tomorrow. Hi, Rika. How are you? So, it goes kind of like this. The question that I ask in the description is are there more divisions within groups than between groups? Specifically within our resistance movement, if you will, and other groups like Back the Blue or any other number of groups out there, right? Uh, just want to touch on some basic information. My views may be a little bit different. They're certainly not meant to be offensive or divisive. I'm just explaining myself. All right. So it goes something like this. Hey, Digger. I am, let's see, let's start with citizenship. So I always use the word civilian instead of citizen. And there's a reason for that. And that reason is something like this. By definition, in order to have the existence of a citizen, you must have the existence of a state. I'm just live streaming straight up out of my front patio porch area. It's a beautiful night. So you might hear some cars go by every once in a while. In order to have a citizen, you must have a state. And there's a relationship there, right? A quote unquote citizen is gaining something and they're sacrificing something. It's kind of a bargain, right? Citizens, by definition, are giving loyalty. And in these days, they're, whether it's forced or not, whatever you believe, taxes, money, right? They're giving this to the state, and what are they getting in return for it? Well, the idea is protection and services, right? Okay. Well, we're getting services at the point of a gun. We have to pay this money, this percentage. We have to pay money as a cut of the compensation we give to vendors for goods. I don't need to tell you all the many different ways you can get taxed. But it's not voluntary, it's compulsory, right? So there is no free will there. There is no voting with your dollar, so to speak. There's no competition for the services. It's monopoly on power, and they just give you what you get. So there's that part of it as far as the quote unquote services that we get. Obviously, quite often, the compensation that we're forced to give the state is spent in ways that we most certainly do not approve of, especially when they go for benefits that we will never need or have access to. Now, the second and most important one is protection, of course. Now, anyone that has investigated the state's obligation to protect us will know that several times, going back decades, their highest court in the land has ruled, and courts under that have ruled, that the police have no duty of protection to the citizens. They just flat out state it. And they kind of have to, because if they didn't, when somebody calls 911 and it takes the cops 5 to 10 minutes to get there, and by then everyone's dead, they would be held liable. They can't be having that. They would go broke. So they've just flat out said that there's no duty of a police officer to protect you. even though it says protect and serve on their cars. That's all over their mottos and everything, right? So if the services the state provides are forced, with violence especially, and the protection does not exist, then by definition, there is no relationship there. If there's no relationship there, there is no state and there is no citizenship or citizenry. Now, to all those who may, maybe they've been using the word citizen or proudly proclaiming themselves or psychologically identifying with this word citizen, that's going to come as something they may not agree with. Okay, I'm not asking you to agree with me. In fact, I may hope you don't, because then it may motivate you to look this definition up yourself. Okay, we are ruled by words. Words are all important, not just very important, they're all important. And if you don't have a value on that, I don't know what to tell you. Good luck dealing with the cops on the street, the lawyers in the offices, or the judges in the courtrooms, and everything else on up. All the alphabet boys you can think of, the IRS, all of them. I like that. Submitizen, says Jesse J. Now, just because you hear something that hints to you that, gosh, maybe you've been a little misled or mistaken or just flat out wrong or somewhere in between, that discomfort, you shouldn't let that maintain a faulty concept or identity or definition in your head. It would be a mistake to think that, oh, I'm so woke, I've taken the red pill, that there aren't other red pills out there in the world. Now, this isn't a huge deal, but yet in a way it is. If you're claiming to be a citizen, by legalese definition and by common definition, historical definition, you are claiming that there is a state. And if you're claiming that there is a citizen and a state, you're claiming that the interactions between the two are legitimate, justified, ethical, all that. Oh, is there an echo? Can you hear an echo, Rika? It's just my cell phone mic. Sorry, I'm kind of chilling. And that's why I don't claim to be a citizen. It's always civilian. I like that word because it's got the word civil in it, right? Okay, thanks, Ladybird. And so by using the word citizen, yeah, we claim there's a state and there's legitimate interactions between, and I just don't see any evidence of that. That's all I'm saying. Now, if someone wants to be doing the whole cop watching and accountability, transparency thing, and they still want to believe they're citizens, that's fine with me. Like, I don't have a problem with that. We can still be homies and go do our thing, right? But I think it's important to kind of have these conversations among ourselves so that there is clarity in our communication, right? We can always have fun with it, just kind of poke fun here and there, poke fun here and there with each other. Not a big deal. So that's just how I feel about citizens. You notice, see, here's the thing about being, if you study legalese a lot and you've been talking it in courtrooms and reading it in documents and looking it up in Black's Law Dictionary to the nth degree for years, you can't get that out of your head. Everything I read, from newspaper articles to websites, government websites, legal documentations, rulings, criminal charges, what the media comes up with, I can't get that filter out of my head. I see the words, the manipulation in the words, like instantly, and it's super easy. And the crazy thing about that is when you can do that, man, it becomes, at first, it's this overwhelming feeling of, damn, it's everywhere. It is everywhere. Don't let that bother you. um, gosh, I'm explaining kind of a long process and trying to make it sound quick, but it's not. My point that I'm trying to make is that words are all important. If words are going to rule us, I want to know what the words are, the common definition, the legalese definition, and the cultural definition. If those three are different or the same or what. The legalese definition is never the same. So if you have discomfort, it would be an error in logic, known as a logical fallacy, to cling to old ways of thinking and speaking be, to avoid the discomfort of having to make a change from something you've clung to for years. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's move on to rights. Okay, so when I look at the word right, I look for factual evidence of its existence. And I look in the words and the actions of what's going on at multiple levels. And I want there to be rights. It would be nice. It would be a warm, fuzzier world. I would have this nice little security blanket feeling if there were rights. So to examine, oh my gosh, are there no rights? Is a little like being naked at first. It's like, whoa, what? The first time I realized this was after the cops had raided my home and stole a bunch of stuff, and I was facing charges and didn't know much. I was learning, and a couple of those months, right in the beginning, I just read down the Bill of Rights. I was like, let's check it out. This they call this the Bill of Rights. It's this holy part of their holy Bible, right? And notice a lot of their words have a similar meaning. They call them rights on purpose because the word also means correct as a synonym. I mean, you it's easy to get those two mixed up. Okay, so they could call it anything, but they chose to call it rights, the Bill of Rights. Okay, not the Bill of Wrongs, it's the Bill of Rights. And they poofed into existence this magical feeling you should have that if you take certain actions, you will either be allowed to continue or they will be refrained from bothering you, right? You won't have to do something maybe. All right, so again, I went down the Bill of Rights and I did 1 through 10. And just in that one arrest I faced alone, I mean, forget the ninth and the 10th. They don't really have to do with this. They kind of have to do with the government itself. So 1 through 8 have to do with us, right? And I went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The only one I still had that meant anything was the third. And that was because they hadn't quartered troops in my house yet, even though they raided my home. Because they have enough money, they have their own bases and cop shops. They don't, this isn't, the 18th century. They don't need to dodge a freezing winter when they travel by horseback. And so they need to come across a town and you got to put them up in your bed for the night so they don't freeze to death. That doesn't exist anymore. Therefore, they're not quartering troops in our homes. But all of the others, I didn't have. They had violated. It meant nothing. Okay. And that made me ask, do rights exist? I get to talking to people smarter than I, and there's no evidence for it. I don't see any evidence for it. And then when you further, come across more and more and more information, and you realize, oh my gosh, the woo woo hustle that's going on with these lawyers and bar members that are writing things down for centuries now, it's such a complex manipulation that it's just so hard for the average person to see when you're just born into this world randomly to some parent or family. You grow up and this is what you've always known. And yeah, there are rights. Everyone says, oh, my rights and Second Amendment right, and all this rights. You the idea of what do you mean there are no rights? What? I don't want to be that different than everyone else. Therefore, I'm just going to reject that notion. I mean, again, that would be another error in logic. Just because something is believed by a million people and you're the 1,000,001, if they're saying 2 + 2 is 5, it's wrong, even though a million are saying that. Now, I'm not saying that someone who believes in rights and clings to rights and know that my rights are being violated is wrong, like bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just suggesting that you consider, if you believe in rights, do they actually exist, or could they be part of the religious type lingo to sell you on the idea that there are protections between you and nasty daddy government with its absolutely corrupting, all powerful ways? Again, to give you this nice security, warm blanket so that you won't fight back, you won't resist, you won't even be angry at them. You can sleep in your beds at night, content in the fact that they can't just come banging in your door. But they know where you rest your head at night. They require you to divulge that information to them before they'll even give you a driver's license or how many number of other things that you need just to live. So they know where you rest your head at night. And golly, if they just do a raid on the wrong house, oopsie, oopsie, our bad. If they kill your dog, if they harm you or your family, oopsie, oopsie, our intel, oops, sorry, go ahead and sue. We'll give you some money. Not from any of the people who raided your home or the people who made the decision, but hey, it's all good, right? Because you're a citizen. You should be so grateful. After all, this is the freest, best country in the land. Look at all you've got. How dare you complain? Look at what these other countries don't have that you do. How dare you complain? Love it or leave it, right? If a right is not, if the idea, I should say, if the idea of a right is not respected, if what it defines, describes, and protects is not protected, then how can you continue to say that it exists? In order for me to believe, oops, in order for me to believe that something exists, I need factual evidence of its existence. The only time it's like, oh, yeah, he does have a First Amendment right to free speech, so we won't arrest him right now. The only reason why they don't arrest you right then is because in their minds and the minds of their superiors, it would cause such a clamor, it would cause such a stirring of the public. It's just not worth the trouble to them. They'd rather just not do it because it's all just a big PR battle between us and the police and the state. It's all just a battle in the court of public opinion for sheep. Uh, they believe this. I happen to believe it as well. If you don't, that's fine. No biggie. But that's just how I see it. So, someone, please, I'm going to get on live stream tomorrow. And I know I'm going to get some callers that are like, my Constitution and my rights, and I'm a citizen. So I'm putting out this little short video just so that they can hear. I'll just point them to this. Hey, click on this one that, you'll get my whole thing on it. So we can come to a meeting of the minds here and accept each other's differences. If we're going to agree to disagree, that's fine. I don't believe in rights, just like I don't believe in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny. It was a childish, maybe that's a rough word. It was a juvenile concept that I was raised in, and I didn't know any better at the time. And now that I'm reconsidering everything and observing actual manifest reality, I see no evidence for it, for the protection, for the respect of it. I don't even see them valuing it. I don't even think they know them. Go ask a cop on the street, what are the 10 amendments to the Bill of Rights, Mr. Law Enforcement Officer? I mean, you don't have to quote them off memory, but can you just tell me the basics and abbreviation of what each one is? Or, this isn't the 10 Commandments. They don't even know them. If they don't know them and they don't value them, and if their sergeant or commander, captain, lieutenant, whoever, chief says, do this anyway, obviously to keep their job and their paycheck and their status and their family relationships, they're going to do it anyway. Bill of Rights be damned. So it's always weird to me when I hear people saying in their videos, hey, that's a First Amendment right. Oh, he's got a Second Amendment right to do that. It's like, okay, but you realize the power battle, there's a division here. On one side, we have words and a camera, and on the other side, they have a coward button known as a walkie-talkie, limitless numbers, limitless financing, and oh, not forget, tasers and hot lead and bulletproof jackets. That's the two sides here. So if the very well armed side is not going to overtake the smaller side, it's because it's a decision that the very well armed side made. They could have easily taken you out and arrested you or whatever and gotten away with it, but they didn't. Why? Why? Again, because the weight of public opinion and the exposure of their brutality would cause PR damage, and it would get up to the chief if it got high enough. And then who's barking at him? The mayor. Politicians are barking at them, right? And who's barking at politicians? Bar members. Politicians don't know anything about the law unless they are lawyers, and most of them are, but still, they have professionals who specialize in city management, right? I just examine these things, these reasons. So oh, Foxy's in here. What's up, Ladybird? Simon King, how you doing? I just don't see any evidence for it. Now, again, I'm just about done here. Lastly, I just want to say again that if someone wants to get on a team of cop watching crew and go do our thing, and we have a difference of opinion when it comes to citizenship or rights, I don't mind. I hope you don't mind either. But I'm still going to stick to what I believe, and you can still stick to what you want to believe. And I won't really push you on it because, people don't like to have their beliefs questioned like that. That's fine. It's kind of rude, whatever. So again, I think it's healthy to talk about these things, to examine the emotional strings that we have to words that we've been using for a long time, to examine whether or not that is in fact going on as time goes by. Because if you get additional evidence to form a conclusion on the existence of a thing and you change your mind in a little bit, that's not a sign of weakness. Quite the opposite, right? That's a sign of humility, of honesty, integrity, and of courage. It takes courage to say, I'm wrong, or I have been wrong. I've seen this obviously happen with a lot of people, not too many, but many. I guess, well, let me touch on one more thing, and that's the Constitution itself. So I understand, I see where a lot of people come from on the Constitution, I really do. Gosh, I'm going to go back and read all these comments when I get done with this video. I see what people mean on the Constitution, I really do. It's got some beautiful ideas in it, right? Just some beautiful language and some phrases and values that really transcend time, that we all share humanity-wide, well, most of us who aren't the predators, no matter what country or culture you come from, whatever time frame. Okay, I get that. I get it. And hey, if we restored it to its quote-unquote original intent, that would be way better than what we got going on now. Agreed. However, when I examine what are these rules that these cops keep talking about that they use to rule over me, whether it's at a border checkpoint or just walking down the street or whatever the case may be, they're always quoting statutes and codes, mostly the criminal code. But okay, fine. Then I go, what gives the statutes and codes the authority? And according to their words, and they have the guns, so that's where that kind of power is, it stems from this Constitution. So I look at the Constitution. Okay, what is this thing that rules over me here today, 230 plus years later? Oh, okay, it's only 4 pages long. All right, and it's not even trying to set up a contract, especially between people now, 200 years later. It doesn't even attempt to do that. It's just like, hey, here's who we are and what we hope for and what we want to do, and here's how we're setting up the government, and we hope for our posterity that this will last and that you protect it, because if you don't, you're screwed. Good luck. We're wise enough to see that this repeatable pattern through history has bitten us. King George is on us. We don't like that, and that's always happened. It's going to happen to you, people in the future reading this. So protect it, and here's our ideas. Good luck. That's all I see there. Okay, then I look at the authors. Well, who wrote this thing? All right, well, people from a different age, only certain people could be in the circle that were talking about this. They had to have money, there was slavery going on. Just a totally alien concept of a world compared to what any of us know today. And I go, okay, nobody's perfect, fine, nobody's perfect, but then I see little legalese manipulations even in the Constitution that give rise to a reasonable argument that could be made that claims that part, if not all, of the Constitution was actually written, despite the flowery language, to rule the people in the Americas. As if they were thinking, man, that King George is the shit. He knows how to rule a kingdom, but by golly, we're sick of paying this, and he's across the ocean, so screw him. No taxation without representation, sort of thing. So we want to rule the kingdom over here now. There is language within the Constitution that points to that possibility, as crazy as that may sound to some of you. Now, there's this little thing called the Whiskey Rebellion. And of course, they minimize the hell out of that in the history books. So, the great George Washington, right? If you're not already familiar, I'll make it real quick. He does all this brilliant stuff, right? In the 70s and 80s, whatever. Well, the the newly formed country was in huge debt from fighting the war, and they didn't want that debt to disband the government, and then they'd have a group of savages again who could be picked apart by stronger countries. They wanted unified control, unified taxes, unified power as they saw it, and they're probably right. Back then in the day, it was a hella more savage, hella more brutal than anything any of us know. And maybe they were just trying to play safe and build cities that were safe from barbarians and things of this nature. I don't know. But the Whiskey Rebellion, George Washington comes rolling in, says, hey, so we're going to make the first ever, tax as a country. And we're going to choose to tax, what can we sell to the masses? Oh, I know. Alcohol. Easy call back then. Easy call back then. What people don't realize is that the world, but much of the American history, is absolutely soaked in alcohol. Now, I'm not saying it's like a horrible thing and you're a horrible thing if you partake. God knows I do. It's how you handle it, right? But as a whole, back then, there was so much suffering, so much boredom, and so much, gosh, that alcohol was just everywhere. It was just such a huge problem. And whiskey happened to be America's quote unquote favorite form of alcohol. Okay. So because alcohol get blamed for so many of society's ills, right, namely by women and children, for obvious reasons, they would have favor for taxing alcohol, like, oh, we can tax this. And of all the drinks, whiskey, right? So they need money to pay off the war. And they go, here's the first ever wham whiskey tax. Well, the whiskey distillers were like, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, hell no. Hell no. Because it was brand new. They're like, hell no, pick somebody else, right? So they all got together and they started some trouble that involved, up to and including tarring and feathering tax collectors, which obviously isn't something I would condone, but whatever. Who am I to judge? So they cause some trouble. They threaten, and and they have more numbers than the state does. The tax collectors and the local security, let's call it. They just had more, and so they couldn't collect the taxes and all this. George Washington gets a big army, and he goes marching toward them, right? And the Whiskey Rebellion, I think they only had like several hundred, maybe a couple thousand on their side, maybe a few thousand at most. Anyway, when they saw George Washington coming with his big, huge army, they just disbanded. They just bounced. I think maybe like 20 or so stayed and they got arrested, detained, but then I think all charges were dropped. I don't know. It was like they said, well, we're gonna get our ass kicked. We're all gonna die. So I'm not dying over a whiskey tax. It's easier for my life if I just pay the whiskey tax and go back home. So they did. And therein lies such a crucial beginning, even in 1791, of the lack of any kind of voluntary interaction. If there's not a fair contract and a fair deal in place, there's no state, there's no citizen. It's just who has the biggest guns. So to wrap this up, I'm trying for all of those, oh, my constitution, your constitution was a great idea, but it fell apart almost immediately. And by the 1800s, and when the founding fathers all died off, the lawyers were firmly in place, as they will be, just about anywhere, you know, along with bankers. So just take a good look at Constitution, being a citizen, having rights. And all I'm doing here is saying, I'm looking at some factual evidence. Now, if you've got factual evidence that contradicts mine, I'm all ears because I could be wrong. And if you teach me something I don't know and it's credible, man, I'm going to change my mind. But this is just how I feel on these three topics. And that's kind of all I had to say on this one. Try to keep it short. What is that? Oh my gosh, I've already been on a half an hour. Bill Norwood, thanks, man. CHLUPL. Just trying to go through some comments here. Bullet Sponge Bob, Simon. I just want you all to know before I close out here that when you sub to a Cop Watchers channel and you comment and you participate in things like this, I mean, I got 50 people listening to my nonsense. It's kind of crazy. I just randomly decided to do this. When you do that, I can personally tell you straight up without a shred of doubt in my mind that you make that person safer in the world. Like the more numbers a Cop Watcher has, the more supporters, the more attention, especially when they're watching live in these days, the safer you make that person. So the thanks that we have on this end can't be overestimated or overstated, I should say. Can't be underestimated. It's a thanks that transcends money. Really. I mean, if someone said, hey, you're the type of person where you just have to go do cop watching stuff and court watching stuff. You just have to. There's no other way about it. Would you rather be financially supported by no one and be able to, yeah, use that money to go do what you want in this effort, but you'd have no YouTube channel and nothing like that? Or would you have zero financial contributions, but then have thousands and thousands of subscribers and people who pay attention and comment and keep track and phone bomb offices? You know what I mean? Anyone with half a brain would say they'd take the subscribers. We're out there pointing cameras. We're shooting footage at people pointing guns, shooting bullets. That's the fact. And the only thing that protects us is the imagination of the cops imagining the crowd that's actually there through that camera. I mean, it's just insane that this capability has come up in the last, what, few years of all humanity. The camera is irrefutable truth. A cop's word, a lawyer's word, a judge's word means nothing in front of a jury that is watching a camera of a video of the events that actually happened. The ability to capture truth, irrefutable. No other generation has ever enjoyed that before. So we are just now kind of hatching out of this egg of being able to compare notes globally, improve upon each other's results, reattack, and reconsider. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I just find that mind-blowing. The most mind-blowing, the most single most mind-blowing event or evolution of my entire life. And I think it will be no matter how long or short I live. That is just to capture truth. All other humans before us would have given anything to be able to do that. If you were going to get screwed over in the past, they just screwed you over. And there wasn't a thing you could do about it. Oh, let's get a mob and grab our pitchforks and torches. Everyone's a dummy. No one's well educated. They certainly aren't thinking psychologically. They're not thinking 4, 5, 6 chess moves ahead. We are able to sharpen each other like steel and progress, get more and more effective, more and more effective. And they're getting more and more desperate and more afraid. And there's hope in that. I mean, there's few benefits, trust me, few benefits and many costs to being oriented in a way to where you have to go participate in this movement. You just you're compelled to. You don't have a choice. If you don't do it, you start to get miserable or just you have to. And having people support you and comment and especially emotionally support you to be like, man, I love what you're doing. Hey, I think you're a cool guy. I mean, in so many forms, that's basically the message. It matters and it makes a difference because we're growing more and more, obviously. And the more that support comes, the faster that growth happens. This growth is more the receding of the virus, a receding of the parasite in our lives. And we're still so far off from the end goal. But God forbid, if a horrible collapse should come, at least we're as progressed as we can be before it hits. And if it doesn't hit, it's just inevitable. I mean, they're not going to be able to keep this up. The whole, imagine a invasion like happened in 2003 in Fallujah. That couldn't happen today, a mere 15 years later. I mean, pretty soon satellites that belong to who knows who can beam down wireless internet to a country, F what their government likes about it or not. Forget it. And when if people have the internet and they just stick a camera out the window and see tanks rolling in and all the carnage that I thank God don't know anything about of the brutality of war, that gets out to the public. They don't even want the public watching American flag draped coffins being loaded into aircraft to be taken home. They tried to censor those photos. These are not dumb people. They know. We should take confidence in that expose the ability to expose that could end that type of warfare altogether. So I'm just trying to give something back that says the importance of what we're doing, I feel, will be looked back upon by future generations as the tip of the spear that started this whole movement that ended all of their nonsense. Decades from now, you will see interviews of ex-police, ex-judges, ex-lawyers going, gosh, this is what it was like. This is what I did. This is how it hurt people. This is who I am now and what I do now. Just like you see sometimes where like someone from, well, I don't want to over exaggerate, but you know, like anytime something horrible, tragic, and malevolent has gone on between two people, and then decades later they kind of work it out and they have this big, you know, it's usually like on opposite sides of a war or something. They get together and reconcile. I believe those interviews are inevitable. And I don't take personal import in this. It's not like I go, oh, I'm such a, or individually, it's not, no one's really special. We're just doing our thing. But collectively, what we're doing is the beginning, the very beginning of a world where if this is going to go on, at least it's going to go on with everyone knowing what actually is going on. Right now, the vast majority are so brainwashed and so indoctrinated that they protect their enslavers. We all know this. And at the very least, it would be nice if that ended. There are many countries in the world, not nearly as quote unquote advanced as the United States, where they don't have this problem. Everyone knows who the bad guy is, and that it's the state, and that it's the police to varying degrees. All we're trying to do is end nonviolent victimless charges. We're trying to make voluntary interactions. We're trying to make at least audio recordings in our courtrooms, and we're trying to be able to choose who can be our lawyer, a civilian lawyer, as opposed to a bar member lawyer. Gosh, I keep ranting. I think I'm out of wind now. I think I'm done. So that's a big thank you to all of you supporters who, not just me, man, not just me, just all the other channels, all of that. And I hope that we can have conversations where we can, if we're not going to be on the same page on every issue, which we're not, at least we can agree to disagree in a friendly way about those and realize that's just side stuff, and that we're all at least, hey, we're so few in number as a percentage of the population. At least, hey, we're all doing what matters, what really matters. You know, some people belong to this church, some people belong to that church, some people belong to no church. It shouldn't matter. Even as big of a deal as that is in our lives and our beliefs, it shouldn't matter. We're all here and now doing this against what exists today with factual evidence. And to me, that's just, I don't know. That's one of the few things that's a plus from doing this. There's hope, there's meaning, there's support, and gosh, hopefully most of all, comedy. Because if we're not laughing, this ain't worth doing. Anger and frustration is not going to attract the numbers that we need as effectively as possible. Not by a long shot, in my humble opinion. Yes, bad things happen that cause anger and fear, yes. But on a general terms, just going about our business, even among this authority watching business, and as serious as it is and can be at any moment, to take advantage of the comedy in the situation. I would much rather make fun of a police officer than call him a few bad names. I'd much rather ask him some questions that point out his own ridiculous contradictions and hypocrisy than insult him or her. I don't know. That's my nonsense. It's cool that y'all talk amongst each other when I'm not talking to you. Anyway. I'm glad I'm back in the business. I worked hard to get to this point. I'm glad I'm here. And man, I've been talking to some big heavy hitters on YouTube, and we got stuff in the works. I just can't talk about it. I wish I could. Oh, I wish I could. There's stuff in the works, stuff that's never been done before. I mean, we are holding no punches. I mean, we're doing it right. We're doing it professional. We're doing it peacefully, and it is going to. Well, I don't know the effect it's going to have among the people, but I can promise you it's going to shock the hell out of them, because they'll see something they have never seen before, something that might even be their worst nightmare that they've been warned about. It's exciting. So thanks for all the support. I will be more than happy to talk to you all in the comments, should there be comments on the video when it uploads. I hope you all have a good night. Bill Norwood, I've been watching all your comments, man. Thanks for the support. I wish I could get to all of you, all your names and all your comments. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'll be in the comment section of the video. Hope you're having as lovely and peaceful and chill night as I am. Wish you all the best, sweet dreams, and above all else, stay safe. Keep laughing.